could you just dye their hair? I don't know, also,
I don't think they have any salons there.
Hey, Internet, it's Paul, it's Matt, the Dork Lords. We're here today talking about House of the Dragon, Season 1, Episode 6, The Princess and the Queen. We open 10 years after the previous episode. Rhaenyra is giving birth to, as we will learn, yet another son.
Yes.
And when Queen Alicent orders the newborn brought before her,
Yes.
likely to check the hair color,
Yes.
Rhaenyra makes the trip herself in a long, painful, bloody tracking shot up an insufferable number of stairs.
It's funny, the thing that occurred to me when that happened is that, is she doing it because she thinks that the queen would kill the baby?
Right. That's a great point, is like, what is the intention there? I think the intention is she knows baby's gonna look wrong, so I'm gonna be there to basically defend my kid, whatever that means. We end with a voiceover monologue from Larys of House Strong. He's just murdered his father and his brother Harwin being the father of Rhaenyra's kids. The central message of this monologue, and I think it's kind of one of Martin's mantras, basically, when playing the Game of Thrones, is that, as the quote says, love is a downfall. So basically, love leads to suspect decision making. And so we see he's talking to Alicent. She realizes he's a psychopath, but he's her psychopath, so maybe she's just going to be just fine. Anyway, Paul.
Yes.
What did you think of episode 6?
I liked it, there was plenty of palace intrigue, and so that was good. I probably don't, well, there are people I like more than others, but there's only so much people can do to really, to gain my favor. So, it's a really bad situation all of them are in. They're not really left with a lot of good choices, but I like the interaction, so I enjoyed the episode.
Yeah, I mean, a lot happened in this episode. Maybe a little too much, frankly, but I enjoyed it as well.
Well, you also wanted Viserys to die, and that didn't happen. So.
How is he alive? I'm starting to doubt if he's gonna die this season now.
Just think what it would have happened for him if they had had competent medical, advice.
He'd still have his fingers. Whatever.
He might have lived a very long life.
Maybe if they'd have just put a cushion on the tron.
I
don't know. Don't sit on swords.
It's like, okay. I'm the king. Who would have cared? He had a bunch of like a big thick wooden mat put on top of it.
Right. I mean, as kings do, he's defying the odds.
Yes, he is. Yeah.
And it is true that while, yes, the Game of Thrones is happening right now, it officially is on when he dies. As soon as he's dead,
Yep.
The proverbial knives become real knives.
Yes.
And look out. So in some ways that's ratcheting up the tension. Like, well, what episode? Is it this one?
Yeah,
here it comes.
Yeah.
But so much happened in this episode in terms of, first there's the time jump. And they did handle it well. I wasn't confused about any of our characters that were now being played by different actors. I thought they handled it really well.
Yeah.
The thing that confused me for a bit was just the number of kids that are suddenly around. And I'm like, wait, who are you?
Sure,
what?
Yeah.
I think we had introduced like 6 kids. I'm like, oh God, what that?
Yeah.
Who are you?
A lot of begetting happened.
For most of the episode, I was thinking to myself, oh, you know what would have been nice is to see that, because we missed out on the relationship between Rhaenyra and Harwin. Right? Obviously, they had a relationship, and she had her kids through him, and we saw kind of a touching farewell scene there.
Yeah.
But then once he's like dead by the end of the episode, you're like, okay, well maybe maybe we didn't need to spend a ton of time.
Yeah.
Like, okay, next. Who's next?
Yeah, you got, more than you did with, Damon's first wife. So,
Right.
it might have been interesting to sort of see exactly the type of relationships they had, even though it ended.
Right.
Just to see, what her life is like.
Yeah, we missed out, but I mean, deliberately so. They're like, look, we're just cutting to the chase. Boom.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting, and I appreciate it. But yeah, there was some stuff that they, it's a cost benefit. They had to sacrifice some potentially interesting story beats to get to more interesting story beats.
And it's my understanding, even though I haven't read the book or books that it's based on, that a lot of that is preamble anyway.
Right, we're getting into the heart of it now with the kids in particular. The kids are kind of where a lot of this stuff,
because to be honest with you, unfortunately, I was doing a Pike, reimagining, like okay, how you gonna get out of this situation? It's like there are ways that you can get a guy there and ready to give you sperm, even if he's gay, you can do it.
Nature finds a way. We learned that from Jurassic Park.
They could have found a way to give him at least one kid.
I did feel it kind of rich that, Alicent is constantly throwing shade at the kids. Right?
Yes.
Oh, blah, blah, blah. Not the real kid. Yep. Look at the hair color. Blah, 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 blah. Not the true target. Well, her kids are luck of the draw. She's not a Targaryen either. Right? Her hair isn't shocking blonde. It's just the fact that
but her kids
happen to be blonde. So they're like, oh, see, it's fine.
It's more than the hair color. I mean, come on.
Yeah, but
they don't make any comment about skin color, but you know.
It's just funny that she's so, like, oh, if it was a pure Targaryen, they'd have blonde hair. Well, you're not. You're one to talk, anyway. Hightower. So Alicent and Kristen basically pull, like in wrestling, what do they call that? You
Tag?
turn into a heel.
Oh, yes.
You turn it. They became the heels, in my opinion.
Maybe right,
but they're just like, I get that there is, and especially in Alicent's case, there is reason she's worried about the life of her kids. Okay.
Yes.
Got it. But she's still unnecessarily dickish at times. And for Kristen, there's no excuse other than he.
And she's not so concerned about her kids that she, would accept a solution of having, her kid marry the other kid, the one that, not that concerned.
You can see Viserys like, oh, that would be amazing.
Please
do this.
It's like much earlier. It's like, oh, I don't know about this getting married to, but now it's like, oh, please, that would solve everything. Please get married.
And also you mentioned her concern for her kids doesn't extend. Infinitely. One of the ways she also doesn't extend is apparently she's a terrible mother.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
I mean, as we see, like the main shot we have of the eldest son, Aegon.
Yes.
Who, spoiler alert, is going to be, king for a while. Or,
sure.
See him naked,
Yes. Well.
Doing things, pulling a Homelander, so to speak.
Sure.
And, like, what is the point of that scene except to say this is a bad guy? He's going to be a bad guy.
Yeah.
So,
and it's like that. But she talks to him about the mistreatment of his brothers or whatever, and he and his cousins, and he is unconcerned. He's a jerk. I have a better impression of Rhaenyra's kids than Alicent's kids.
Definitely. Rhaenyra's kids have a little bit of kindness in them. Helping each other out. Like the kids, Alicent's kids are like little kid rock stars. I don't know, it's just the look of them. They have like their own Nordic hair metal band or something. Okay, go get them, guys.
I guess perhaps if she was giving her kids the idea that they're better than they are being treated or considered, then that you might think, oh, that's okay. You're better than people think you are. That's a good message. Except, if they end up becoming assholes as a result
Right,
of it.
except that they're not.
Yeah.
Now, there's an interesting bit in there. So her daughter, Helena.
Oh, yes, it's bugs.
The bugs. So there's a seemingly mundane passage where Helena's commenting on this millipede. And Alicent is in the room and she's like, oh, blah, blah, blah. And there's a conversation going on. Meanwhile, Helena seems really fascinated with the millipede. But I think hidden allusions to the future of the House of the Dragon.
Oh, okay.
Is what's happening. And
interesting.
What made me go, huh?
Someone's going to gain more legs?
Well, the legs is interesting. I didn't get a lot out of that except to say maybe it's talking about that the millipede is the right of succession.
Okay.
And that, like, as the line goes down, because she says something like the last segment, the last ring doesn't have legs or something like that, which maybe could be like Bran Stark. I don't know. Like, hey,
okay. Wow.
That's a weird one.
Okay.
I don't know about that. But the thing that is definitely like, oh, she's saying more than she is about a millipede is in the moment, Alicent is talking about how Aemond, the younger son, so there's Aegon, the older one, Aemond's the second.
Sure.
And it's like, oh, he doesn't have a dragon, and Aegon was being a jerk. Wow, surprise about it. But that one day Aemond would get his own dragon. Helena, looking at the millipede, says he'll have to close an eye. And we see like, oh, she's talking about the millipede. But from the book, Aemond will indeed. Spoilers. I don't know. Spoilers. We already have spoilers. This is a book spoiler. In case you don't want to know the book spoiler, jump ahead 30 seconds. What's going to happen is the Targaryens are going to go to Laena's funeral, right? She just died here at the end of this episode.
Yeah.
And at that funeral, Aemon's going to decide, I'm going to get the currently riderless dragon that was Laena's, Vhagar, the dragon that killed her.
Sure.
That occurs. But in the process, through a series of events, he gets in a fight with the sons of Rhaenyra. And they get in a fight, and during that fight, he loses an eye.
Ah, okay.
And so to get the dragon, he ends up losing an eye. He's called Aemon One Eye from then on. So it just so Helena obviously is able to prophesize that in some way. One would think that's a little too on the nose to be like, oh,
yeah, maybe she's got some brand qualities.
Right. Hence, maybe why Bran's brought up. Who knows? It's not exactly the beginning and the very end of the episode, but we kind of bookend terrible pregnancy type things. So,
yes.
Rhaenyra survives giving birth. Laena is obviously not going to. Either she's going to survive, but the child will be dead inside her.
I think it's gonna kill her. Yeah.
So she's basically gonna be like, I'm not just gonna die that way. I will die commanding my dragon to set fire to me. Obviously, a powerful scene. It's interesting that so Daemon is given the same choice that Viserys was given.
Yeah.
Like, hey, we can save the kid, but we'd have to kill her in the process. Anyway, you see him thinking, and then somehow she gets out of bed and gets outside. I'm like, who's with her? But anyway, but yes, she. So that's how she goes out. There's a lot of deaths, burning deaths, in fact. So you get Harwin and Lionel Strong. So a couple of recaps ago, I was like, that Lionel, don't play chess with that guy. What I failed to take into account was the devious chess player gene that had been passed to his son.
Yes.
So he's gone. Yeah, he was handed the king. I guess a lot of what the story comes down to is everyone knows the kids are bastards, but if somebody really acknowledges it, then people start dying. So no one acknowledges it until Kristen kind of pushes Harwin into beating him up because he mentions like, oh, you only have that kind of respect for your son. That scene is interesting because while yes, it can certainly be interpreted as well, it is my son, and how dare you say so? Blah 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 blah. You could also interpret it as this guy. Let's just say for a second, Harwin wasn't the father. He is obviously, but let's assume for a second he's not.
Okay.
Okay. If you were wrongly accused of sleeping with the princess and having kids with her, that person is basically saying you should be killed.
Yeah.
And so I could imagine that would be a perfectly reasonable excuse for beating somebody up. To say, like, why would you? No, please don't say that because I'd like to continue living. And,
right.
So anyway, I don't feel like it's the gotcha that it's purported to be. That's all.
Oh, yeah, sure.
I think Harwin would be like, I know what you're talking about. But he was just accusing me of treason, so I beat the hell out of him.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, I agree it's not the gotcha, but, I mean...
Given the other evidence, it's a gotcha, I guess, yeah. The whole initial scene, because it's kind of like it's not one big tracking shot, but it's essentially a long tracking shot where Rhaenyra's struggling to carry the baby. It was a pretty visceral scene. It just felt like, oh God, you could just feel the pain and anguish for Rhaenyra in that moment.
I've been partially spoiled because he actually bothered to complete the end of this story, so I was able to look it up and see what it is.
Right.
It's like nothing good can come of this, and all these people are gonna not succeed to the so this really is the downfall of the not complete eradication of the family, but they are going to really suffer at the end of it ultimately. It's based on history, and it's you kind of know that it's going to end badly. I shouldn't feel so badly about Alicent and what she's doing, the choices that she's making. She's certainly, I just wish they could see above themselves, her and Kristen, who, man, I'll be happy to see him die.
Villain. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. It's like, these both of them were in bad positions, right? Alicent, who was pushed into this marriage, but she was being basically following her father, and her father put her in that position where her kids are in danger, and instead of being mad at her father, she's mad at Rhaenyra. Yeah. And Kristen, who for some reason doesn't have a problem with making a vow of chastity, and he gets fooled into having sex, and of course he's mad at Rhaenyra, So it's
I wouldn't even say he was fooled into having sex, right? I mean, he was like,
well, he certainly decided to do it, but maybe he's like, wait a minute, if we have sex, will you run away with me?
Oh, right, okay.
Will you make an honest man of me?
Prenup.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, what? It's like, it's understandable that people don't think very far ahead in situations like that. But
right.
he did not know himself.
This isn't a one-night stand, is it?
Yeah.
Well, in that case, I'm out of this. Yeah. Well, it's also interesting because you brought up a great point a couple of recaps ago where you were like, kind of the point, people try to look for heroes in these House of the Dragon and Game of Thrones type stories, and in some ways the point of Martin's work is to say these aren't heroes. There's no good will come of this, essentially. And so we have another situation where there really aren't any heroes here. There are people that are more likable than others. At this moment in time, Daemon is fairly likable. He's done some terrible things, but at this moment he's basically in exile, more or less. He's decided to separate himself, although he's still reading up on the Targaryens and everything. He was happy just to stay away. It was actually Laena who's like, "Let's go back. Can we go back?" Do we have to? Well,
they really painted her in a very good, even though she ended up dying. She was very understanding of Daemon and didn't really, she had some things that she wanted. She wanted to, stay in the part where her family was.
Right,
but other than that, she was, a good wife to Daemon. He didn't have to get her killed or anything.
Right. He didn't actually, crush her skull with a stone. But so we get the idea though that her death and him witnessing it actually will propel him. Like they keep pulling me back in. So it's he's in the mob.
Yes.
He's back in the
yes.
Targaryen mob. And Rhaenyra seems very sympathetic at the moment, but she's also playing the game. But at the moment, yes, in this episode, Alicent and Kristen stood out as although Aegon, he was a kid, so he's just a kid, but Aegon the kid. They're the dicks of the group right now. Boo! Boo Green! Anyway.
Yeah, I hope he doesn't turn out as bad as Joffrey.
Right. Yeah, we do have a named person named Joffrey.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, so hopefully
Oh, by the way, so we should point that out. I mean, I guess it's obvious, but last week we were trying to remember Joffrey's name. Joffrey was Hamburger Face. Whoever that guy was, Hamburger Face.
Yes.
Hence the reason that Laenor names him Joffrey is he's naming the kid after his dead love. Anyway.
Yes. The second Joffrey, the one that we're used to, we see now it's not a great history, that name.
Right. Yeah, good point. I'm also wondering, could you just dye their hair? I don't know, also,
I don't think they have any salons there, so
maybe,
you have to constantly be touching up roots, and then maybe it might damage their hair, and then they lose their hair. You have little bald kids.
That's true. It would be like the Sun Inn, where they look like they're. There was a guy who used a crappy version of a blonde thing back in high school, and we named him 100% Valencia because he looked like an orange. But also, the Aegon and Aemon and stuff, they had the long hair. Grow it long and then dye it. And then nobody will care. All the townspeople are like, oh, he's got long blonde hair. Just like, I'm sure he's a Targaryen. I don't know. That's all you need. No, they make the bowl cut and they leave it dark brown. You're an idiot. So we'll be back talking about episode 7, talking about Rings of Power. We're talking about She-Hulk. It's all going on right now. We're in the middle of it, Paul.
We are indeed.
So we'll be back talking about all those things. Paul, I appreciate it, good sir.
Oh, sure.
Thank you as always. And we'll talk to everybody next time. Bye.
Bye.